do you even PvP? Because Nidos Argentina, they know how to PvP. Alright, you battlers, we are going to be doing another, this is probably going to be the final timeless tournament shoutcasting. I am honored beyond comprehension to be able to cast over a Nidos Argentinian performance. This is amazing. Not only that, if you do not know this battler, this battler right here, if you do not know who this is, I'm going to put it up in this corner over here somewhere for anybody who has not seen the video, but you can go watch that previous upload highlighting this amazing, talented, is actually a Go Stadium coach, battler, Gaston. But Gaston here, you can already see the team, okay? It's already over here. Dragonair, Kingdra, Lapras, Meganium, Pinsir, and Relicanth. Pinsir. Gaston is well known for always being at least one step ahead of the opponent in his matches. And I'd like to say that is because of Gaston's team picks and his team composition. He makes very interesting choices. Now, being the Timeless Cup, I am not at all surprised to see Dragonair, Kingdra, and Lapras, but Meganium does seem a little interesting to me as compared to running Venusaur. Then the Pinsir is interesting enough, and then of course he has the Relicanth, which has a lot of good use. Now he does make a very good point about Meganium by saying it's going to be the best answer to Double Dragon plus Ice, those three as a team composition. Now on his Dragonair, interestingly enough, he actually has Wrap and Aqua Tail. No Dragon Pulse, no Return. He is running Wrap and Aqua Tail because it has slightly better shieldless matchups, and it's usually used as a switch, so kind of a cushion play. And he opted to go with Lapras over Celio because it has better matchups against both Venusaur and Whiscash. And he also pointed out because he is running Meganium, he does not like Charizard. He despises Charizard, which hurts. That is why he opted to bring Relicanth, and also Relicanth can defend against anybody who is opting to run Double Ice. So he's found some niche synergy between Relicanth and Meganium as picks for this cup. And Pinsir, with the recent move pool updates, obviously is spicier than ever. He said spicy too. It can do really well against the core meta. Some specific names he put out there for Pokemon was Dragonair, Kingdra, Lapras, Celio, and Meganium. And having gone 7-2 at a massive Nidos Argentina Timeless Cup, this is going to be 9 rounds. He went 7-2. We are just going to go through the battles. He said there weren't any specific battles that he wanted to have highlighted. Some plays we're going to be looking out for that hopefully we see through these battles and these rounds is Pinsir being able to double close combat for a win against dragons and the ice types. And then also Relicanth being able to farm down a Celio after landing an Ancient Power. Here we are. Step into the arena. This is where the magic happens. I am really excited to get into these matches and to simply witness these plays and this skill. I mean, Gaston was number 4 on the Silph Arena's global player rankings for season 1. Number 4. That's the global player rankings, the entire world. So these will indeed be great battles. Opponent 1 here is going to be Gabby9131, who had a team with no dragons, interestingly enough, for round 1 here. We have Venusaur, Sunny Castform, Celio, Beedrill, Skuntank, and then Whiscash. And here we go, round 1 game on with Gabby9131 versus Gaston, the G and the G. This is going to be GG's because they open with the Skuntank into Lapras. Not very ideal, but the Skuntank can still hit pretty hard against the Lappy. I think the Crunch, yeah, it brings it down into the yellow, which that's considerable, you know, especially with how much of a powerhouse Lapras is in the Timeless Cup meta. It's that's what the Skuntank needed to do. That's what it was hoping for. That's what it needed. The Crunch, you need to shield, I guess, on the second one. You don't want to let the Lapras fall at this point. Looks like they're just going straight for the Surf and Turf. They want to see if they can get rid of the Skunk. They end up ice sharding down with 1 HP left. That's hype because we have a Surf good to go against the Venu, but you're basically already gone at that point, so it's whatever. GG's. You have the Dragonair able to come out. Now, this is interesting, right? Because they opted to have Wrap. Instead of Dragon Pulse, they're going to have quicker access for neutral coverage against a Venu, rather than, you know, having to wait longer for a Dragon Pulse as a comparison, I guess. But this also is still not really ideal. You know, Celio being the Spam Master 2000, it is so spammy. Powder Snow combined with Body Slam, it's going to reach those so quick. It can still put a lot of pressure onto Kingdra. But Kingdra, as we all know, has this new move that it has access to. It has Octazooka, so I guess it can put up a little more of a fight than it probably could have previously against Cecilio, and that came in very clutch for game 1. GG's. Game 1 being a hard GG's. As you can see right here, we got the grain going into game 2 with the G versus the G, Gabby versus Gaston. Now this is almost a dream. This is exactly what Relicanth wants to open into. We are going to hopefully see the Ancient Power land. Okay, we actually do. This is exactly what we were hoping to see, and we've already seen it here in round 1. I'm actually pretty excited about this because it doesn't seem realistic that you're going to be able to farm with anything that has water gun. You know, water gun user against Cecilio, that's not going to happen, right? But Relicanth is part rock typing, so it'll resist the body slam and it will resist the Aurora Beam. So it's going to farm down on the Cecilio, puts on a lot of pressure, right? Now we're at the point where they brought out the Beedrill. It's kind of an interesting pick. As you can see, they are running Fell Stinger, I guess, so they're trying to be a little offensive with Beedrill as a pick for the Timeless Cup meta. They're trying to get, I guess, it's not the same as, you know, rolling with power punches on a Medicham, but if you go Fell Stinger and then, you know, try and land a Sludge Bomb, I guess that could be a big play. Maybe that's what their play was. But they still have the Cecilio here. I think it has a little more energy built up. Yeah, it's going to be able to get another body slam. We do not see a shield though. Interesting. So we want to reserve the shield. We're going to continue, I guess, or finish farming down with the Relicanth. And this is super clutch. Hard GG's. The Ancient Power is going to land against the Skunk Tank. I think the Skunk Tank might be able to win, obviously, if Gaston does not shield. But I'd be surprised if he doesn't. And he didn't. Okay. So he's going to farm down, Dragon Breath down with the Dragonair, and that is GG's round 1. We did indeed see a clean 2-0 sweep in round 1. So let's go ahead and reset this, and then we can move on in here to round 2, which is going to be up against Lizardon. Now take a second, just take 1 second. I want you to guess what starter they brought. Did you guess Charizard? Bruh. Of course they have the Charizard. Very fitting. I'm kind of a fan of this team. It's very interesting. In my opinion, it seems like a really fun team. They have the Mightyena Charizard, Shelgon, Sudowoodo, Shiftry, and then the Whiscash. I think they have a lot of core meta coverage with this team. Obviously, we're seeing heavy off-meta picks with the Mightyena. Now, revisiting what Gaston had mentioned about Charizard, he does not like Charizard. Hopefully, we do indeed see some action out of the Relicanth again here for round 2. But let's get into it here. Round 2, game 1 with Gaston versus Lizardon, the Charizard user. I love it. Okay, literally opened with Relicanth. My guy, Gaston, let's go. That Mightyena, from what you saw, is Ice Fang. That is not ideal at all against the Relicanth with its rock and water typing. So they swap out. We landed the Ancient Power though, and Shiftry is pretty glassy. Even though he can be a little more useful now than he was before, he is still glassy. He did not change as a Pokemon. He's the same Pokemon. Now this Ice Fang obviously is going to have more utility against the Dragonair. It'll deal the super effective. So Mightyena likes that. But I don't think Gaston's too worried about it at this point based on the team composition, right? You have the Relicanth still, and you have the Lapras. You've already gotten rid of their grass coverage, so it's pretty much GG's. I mean, I think Sudowoodo could still be a threat at this point in the matchup, but even then, I mean, you have so much health between these two, and you have a shield. I think Sudowoodo is going to meet his demise very quickly. But actually, okay, so they do have the Whiscash that is at full health. It doesn't really have much energy built up, so it's not going to be much of a threat at all. Even if it had energy, I mean, you're not going to want to go Blizzard. You need to go straight Mud Bomb against the Lapras in this matchup. Going for Blizzard against the Lapras would kind of be nonsense. It's not going to deal much damage at all with Lapras's typing, right? Ice and Water, very resistant to Ice-type attacks, okay? Now we're going to be able to just go straight for these Surfs. That is GG's game 1. Let's go into game 2 here for round 2. All right, let's get into it. Gaston versus Lizardon. Round 2, game 2. We open up with the Lapras. They have the Shiftry. This Ice Shard is going to put in some work for energy gain and to deal super effective against the Shiftry. It's not exactly farmable though, because as you see, Shiftry can carry Ice Blade, which is going to be threatening against the Lapras. Shiftry does have a fairly decent attack stat. Look how much damage that did. That was so much. Essentially, I think you're going to have to use at least one shield in this matchup. You cannot just straight Ice Shard down. Ideally, you are going to be going for these Surfs. It's kind of similar in a way to the Venusaur matchup versus the Lapras, right? They're using their energy at this point. You have little to no HP left. That makes sense. Don't use a shield. Just let them do their thing. I think you can comfortably tank a Dragon Claw depending on IVs. Yeah, that's pretty comfortable, I think. And then we're going straight for the Aqua Tail, even landing against the Whiscash. It's still going to deal neutral, right? It's not resisted, not super effective, so that's not a lost opportunity for Gaston, even at this point in the battle. The Mud Bomb does land, but now we have the Kingdra. The Kingdra is sitting in the back. It looks like Gaston did use the double dragon strategy here for game 2 to take the victory, to move into round 3 hot and heavy and ready to go. This tournament's going very well so far for Gaston. GG's. Right now at this point, Gaston has 2-0'd 2 in a row, so we might start to see more meta lineups with picks like Lapras, Dragonair, etc. I think the main higher level play that we've seen so far from Gaston is that knowledge of landing the Ancient Power against the Celio. You can farm down with the Water Gun. But anyways, here we go. Round 3 is going to be up against Marliset? Marliset. I think it's Marliset. I'll stick with Marliset. But Marliset does have, I guess, a more core meta team. They have Lapras, Venusaur, Celio, Whiscash, Dragonair, and then Skuntank. Let's clear out these wins now because this is going to be a new round. And here we go with round 3, game 1. Gaston versus Marliset. So far, again, he is 2-0'd 2 in a row. We see a Venu open from Marliset. So this kind of is a polarizing matchup. This is I think this is a very, I don't want to say heavy. It feels like it could be a very heavy way to open a round, right? I guess they both kind of almost hard counter each other, but Venu's able, ooh, did you see that switch and that timing? That's the masterful play that we came to see. That was very impressive with the timing. You caught the Frenzy Plant, and like he said as well, he uses it as a swap, and he's able to access this wrap, which will deal neutral, right? You would think, okay, there's no way it's Dragon Pulse. You're right, it's not Dragon Pulse, but it's also not Aqua Tail. I can deal that neutral with the wrap. Now, Celio still is a considerable threat with the Body Slam spam against the Lapras in this situation. I think, yeah, you definitely just want to go straight for the Skull Bash. You want to either KO it or get rid of their last shield that they have remaining. And this is not ideal either. I don't think you should go for the shield pressure at this point. It looks like they gave you the shield pressure actually at this point because they went for the Surf. I think they should have built up and gone for the Skull Bash. That was definitely a sway in game 1 here for round 3 with the Lapras coming in for Gaston's Lapras. So that was pretty interesting, I think. But their Skull Bash, as you can see, landed successfully against the Meganium. I don't think Gaston's being too risky. I think that might have been the right call to make at that point. You want to save a shield because Venu here has some stuff good to go. You want to be able to at least stand a chance against the Venu, and if you are given the energy advantage even with the no shield versus no shield, that's actually GG's. Never mind. Okay, we have seen our first L so far. Marliset came in and said, no, you're not going to 2-0 3 in a row. I'm going to put up a fight. The Venu did some work. I was anticipating that Gaston was going to be able to reach another Frenzy Plant before Venu had the opportunity to reach another Frenzy Plant or to fast move down, but we saw just the opposite. I think for round 3 here, we might actually very well see this go to the best of 3. There was an interesting play. So Gaston opted to be a little aggressive, I guess, try to catch him off guard by opening up with the Pinsir, which I don't think was pretty... It wasn't too risky against their team, right? They have no fire. They don't have any rocks. So, you know, Pinsir is going to be a little comfortable. At this point, Lapras, you should, just like we're seeing here, you're going to go straight for the Surfs against the Venu, because whether they shield or don't shield, the Surf damage combined with the super effective Ice Shards, that's just what you need. That's what you need to do against the Venu to gain advantage and to stand a chance. So I'm going to come in with the Pinsir. I did anticipate that correctly. We're going to be able to Fury Cutter down before they are able to reach a Frenzy Planter to do anything against the Pinsir here. But now we're seeing this play that Gaston had mentioned where he's going for the close combat against That almost one-shot that Dragonair. That was impressive. That was very, very impressive. Now we're at a 1 shield versus 1 shield with the Skunk Tank versus the Kingdra here. So I'm pretty sure Kingdra's still going to win this matchup. I don't think you necessarily need to debuff with the Octazooka to gain advantage, but you debuffed anyway. GG's. And as I anticipated, here we are about to get into game 3 for round 3. Round 1 we lost from the fast move Venu damage with the Megania matchup. Then we took the victory with the Kingdra versus Skunk Tank. Now we are playing again. We are going for the W. We have the Dragonair. We're going to utilize the Dragonair. You land the wrap. That's considerable, right? Especially against Celio, and I guess definitely against Lapras as well. It's gonna be more reliable, I guess, more accessible, more consistent than Dragon Pulse is going to be. I mean, look at where the Celio is now. Granted, the Celio did not use any shields, but that's where you want to be, especially because due to Gaston's team composition and these plays that he has with his team composition, with how low this Celio is right now, you would think you wouldn't need to shield, against a wrap. You would think you shouldn't need to be too worried about it, but Gaston knows that you can farm down with the Relicanth and you can get a lot of energy built up, and now you have an Ancient Power fresh and good to go for this Dragonair. Do we get boosted? I don't know if we did or not. I didn't see it. They make a quick swap, which I think that was the right play. They did that very well. They're going to access that Frenzy Plant as quick as possible against the Lapras. Obviously, invest a shield. You don't want to take a Frenzy. We're going for the Surf and Turf just like we should against the Venu in this matchup. I don't necessarily know at this point if we should use another Surf. I think just Ice Shard down. Yeah, okay, Ice Shard down. And then you have lots of energy good to go. Go for the Skull Bash against the Dragonair, and that pretty much closes it out. Gaston takes the victory for round 3. GG's. Now getting into round 4 here, my good friend Billy the Bongo Llama has something to say to the battlers. Billy, what do you have to say?
Battlers.
Thank you, Billy. That will be all. So previously in round 3, we did see some play with the Pinsir. So far, not a disappointment at all. We have seen what we were promised. I'm very pleased by this tournament coverage so far. And let's get into round 4 and see who we are up against. It looks like Shaoran Leva. Shaoran? I'm just going to say Leva. But Leva here pretty much has the same team as the previous opponent from round 3, save for instead of Celio, they opted for Kingdra, so they have that double dragon option. And then instead of the Skunk Tank, they brought the Spice. Yes, they have Drapion. I guess the question I'm asking right now is, does that Drapion have Bite or does it have Ice Fang? And let's get into this battle. Again, this is round 4. This is going to be game 1 with Leva versus Gaston. Okay, funny enough, they literally open up with the Drapion, so we'll find out real quick. It is indeed Bite. Look, it just deals massive, quick, consistent damage. This should be Fell Stinger. I would not use a shield. Okay, it was. We were able to go for this close combat. Well, I think we should see it. No, we don't. We do not see a shield. Basically, that one-shots the Drapion. It has little to no HP left, I think like 4 or 5. The Kingdra is going to be able to Dragon Breath down. Doesn't necessarily gain an advantage off that. I mean, you're going to take a while to get to Octazooka and Outrage anyway, so it is what it is. But you do have Outrage, obviously. Go for the Outrage in this matchup against the Lapras. Going for Octazooka, I guess, could be very, very situational, but I think that would be a late game play with Kingdra versus Lapras. You just want to go Outrage, do either the shield pressure or just deal the massive damage, right? So now, actually, I take it back. We have the debuff successful with the Octazooka against the Lapras. We do not see a shield, so he's not gonna. It's a Surf. Okay, wow, this is what? Argentina. What is going on? Double Surf against the Kingdra. This is pretty hype so far. Now we have a Lapras with a shield and a Venu. We are going to obviously shield the Frenzy Plant. Do not take the Frenzy. You want to get to the Skull Bash. Ooh, we might lose. Yeah, we might actually lose game 1 here in round 4. GG's. All right, here we go. We are getting into game 2 for round 4 here. Again, we have Leva versus Gaston. Game 1 was pretty nuts, I think. So here we see the Drapion. We know that Drapion has Bite and Fell Stinger. So the Lapras, I believe, is just going to want to go straight Ice Shard and Surf to deal more pressure faster, I guess, to deal, to get rid of the threat as quick as possible. or to take advantage of your investment with the Lapras and to just grab those shields because Lapras is a tank. That's the way to play this matchup. And it looks like that's exactly how Gaston's playing it too. So we're just going straight Ice Shard at this point. We do see a shield. I don't know if that was questionable or not because, okay, well, we have access to another Surf at least, but the Bite might KO before you can, okay. Well, they actually did not shield, so that makes sense. GG's, but the Kingdra comes in just like we saw previously, but from Gaston, we swap into the Meganium, counter swap again into Venu, counter swap into Dragonair. This is not really what Venu wants to be matched up against, but it's also not insanely ideal for Dragonair because Venu, even though it's not going to deal super effective with Vine Whip, Razor Leaf, or Frenzy Plant, it is still going to hit like a truck. It can hit really, really hard. The Kingdra finishes the job, gets it donezo, gets rid of the Dragonair. Now, this is kind of advantageous for Gaston. This is the kind of matchup that he planned for, that he prepared for with his team composition. Even if they get another Octazooka, I mean, the Frenzy Plant against the Kingdra, it deals neutral, but it hits super hard, even with Meganium's low attack stat. GG's game 2. Round 4, game 3, we are going for the best of 3. Round 1 was a loss for Gaston, round 2 was a victory. So let's see what's going to happen here for game 3, shall we? They open up with the Dragonair, we open up with the Lapras. That is ideal for us. The Dragonair, interestingly enough though, is staying in. It's not opting to swap out. Makes me wonder what they brought for their team composition here for the final battle of this round. Are they trying to... They do actually go for the Dragon Pulse, so that was, I think, in my opinion at least, I believe that was a smart shield on Gaston's part, because now you still have this Lapras reserved and you wanted to save it because of this Venusaur. You want to be able to deal with this Venusaur in one way or another, because as you can see right below, Gaston does have a lot of water on his team, right? He has the Kingdra, part water. Technically it'll take neutral from grass, but then you also have the Relicanth and the Lapras, and also Meganium does not like being matched up against the Venu, so stay in that investment to save the Lapras. Now we're basically just counter swapping at this point. We have the Meganium good to go with the Frenzy Plant against the opposing Lapras. And this is also another kind of matchup and another scenario that Gaston planned for. This is his masterful strategy of saving these types of matchups for late game plays. Because now, even though he's at a disadvantage with the Dragonair versus the Lapras, he has a shield. The Lapras is not going to be able to Ice Shard down quick enough to KO the Dragonair, and the Dragonair has Wrap. It doesn't have to wait extra long to go for the D-Pulse. It can just go for the Wrap. Now we're going for the Aqua Tail to use less energy, but to get rid of the Venusaur, and Dragon Breath down on the Lapras. GG's. Right now, moving into round 5 here. Round 5 hype. Gaston's had a couple of matches where he loses game 1, but then we've seen the consistency from Gaston of being able to come back and to take the victory. And he does it very aggressively because, just like I believe I mentioned earlier, Gaston's very consistent at being one step ahead of his opponent. As we've seen those matchups play where counter swap, counter swap, counter swap, Gaston ends up on top, so he's one step ahead. But let's clear out these wins and these losses counters below, and let's see what we're going up against next. It looks like, I really don't even want to try to say this, to be honest, Ambar Walkzuk. I'm going to say Ambar. Now, Ambar has not necessarily a core meta team. I mean, it has core meta elements, but also pretty interesting because they have the Sudowoodo. Okay, Sudowoodo, Kingdra, Dragonair, so they do have the double dragon. They have the Venusaur, of course. Interestingly, they opted for Celio as their ice water instead of Lapras. And they also actually do have the Ninetales, so this could be very interesting.
Yes, interesting indeed.
They also apparently have a different IGN as compared to their Silph name, so Ambar, Nico, same person, okay? I did check into it. Check the link below. This is round 5, okay? Believe me. But here we go. We have Relicanth versus Celio. I think this is what Gaston wanted. This is what he wants to see for open here in round 5. It's going to be advantageous. Now he swaps into the Venu. Quick counter swap, obviously, into Dragonair. This could be a Sludge Bomb, which could deal massive damage, but it's actually the Frenzy Plant. They're going to reserve a little bit of energy, I guess. They want to get what they can out of the Venusaur versus the Dragonair matchup, which at the end of the day, you know, unless you do double Sludge Bomb and it lands, you're really not going to get much out of that matchup. But they come in with the Kingdra, and you do have Wrap on this Dragonair, so the Kingdra, it's still really scary. It's still Kingdra, but you're gonna be a little friskier in that matchup, right? It's not going to be necessarily as risky. You might not get farmed down with the Dragon Breath before you can reach the Dragon Pulse. That's what the wrap is for here, and that's why Gaston's running it. Now we come in with our own Kingdra. Looks like Gaston did again opt to go for double dragon in this situation. Relicanth double dragon, pretty interesting. They land the body slam, spam. Now we're going to be going for the outrage, obviously. We do actually see a shield. Personally, I was surprised to see the shield there. So the opponent failed to, I guess, remember or to recognize that Gaston opened up with the Relicanth. So Gaston's able to take advantage of it at this point. Not necessarily to farm up too much, but it's GG's anyway. Here we go for round 5, game 2 with Ambar versus Gaston. They open up with the Dragonair. Now, remember, as Gaston noted, Meganium's going to be a little more comfortable with matchups like this than Venusaur is going to be because of, one, its tankiness, and also the fact that Meganium has access to Earthquake, which, as far as, baiting, is going to be much more of a threat against these matchups than Venusaur's Sludge Bomb is going to be. As you can see, we successfully landed the Earthquake, so that is going to be GG's. The Dragonair is gonzo. The Venu comes in opting to use its energy, apparently. We do not shield, that's smart. And we're able to counter swap in, I guess, with the Dragonair. That was quick. They went Kingdra, and then we have the Lapras able to come in for this matchup. I believe this is a shield bait. That was a successful clean shield bait. That was very nice. We're still going for the Surf, apparently. I guess not wanting to let them take advantage too much of potentially landing an outrage or putting on more shield pressure, maybe? Kind of I don't know. That seemed kind of weird to me. I might have to play that back after, but Dragonair comes in. It's going to Dragon Breath farm down, and it has the wrap good to go to greet this Venusaur. Take the wrap, Venu. This is going to be GG's because the Dragonair still has a shield, and it's donezo. Even if you hit it with the Frenzy Plant, GG. This is a massive, huge tournament, so there's a lot of opportunity for Gaston to seize. I feel like the pressure is on, even just watching it. This has already happened. This is in the past, and I still feel the pressure, right? For round 6 here, we are faced up against Coma 90X, and Coma 90X has some spice here. They brought the Pinsir, as you can see. I mean, the first thing I noticed about Coma's team is they do not have a double dragon opportunity, right? They do not have Dragonair. They opted for just Kingdra, so I expect to see a lot of Octazooka pressure on their part, probably in synergy with Lapras and then Venusaur, which for the most part, that's kind of a core meta play, but let's just see. Round 6, man, the pressure is on. Again, even just watching this, I'm going nuts because these have been great so far. I mean, the Relicanth versus the Celio, that's not a play I ever discovered, but let's see what is going to happen for round 6, game 1 here. Again, Coma 90X versus Gaston. Should be pretty interesting. Pinsir versus Pinsir, a shiny Pinsir, actually. But we see Gaston's just going straight for the X Scissor. Obviously, a bug typing is going to resist fighting, so you do not want to opt to go for the close combat. Just go straight for the X Scissor. And they come in with the Kingdra. You saw how quick, actually, that was missed. I think anybody would have missed that, though, with how quick it happened, but you got access to the close combat, and we just went for the X Scissor. We got the shield anyway, so not such a big deal, because now we have this Meganium, which for the most part is going to be able to deal with Kingdra. Kingdra is going to be more scared of Meganium than I guess Meganium might be scared of Kingdra, depending, right? If it gets an outrage, that's something you don't want to see. You don't want that to happen, especially with shields down. That's game-winning stuff from Kingdra, but we have shields, so we're a little more comfortable. Do not shield, obviously, at this point. If they want to KO with the X Scissor, let them have it. You can come in with the Lapras. Now we have a Lapras versus Lapras Mirror. Obviously, it's going to be a matter of getting to the Skull Bash first. However, Gaston, as you can see, has the shield advantage. Gaston has 1 shield and Coma 90X has none. No shields on their part. So this is pretty much a hard GG's for game 1. I mean, we can let it play out, even with the lag from what we can see. And I'm sure they talked about this when they were battling. And it's pretty much over. There's not much you can do. GG's. Round 6, game 2. Can Gaston get another 2-0 in round 6 and keep this roll going? Let's see. The Venusaur is going to be obviously threatening against the Kingdra. Even though it's only going to deal neutral, Frenzy Plant will hit like a truck. It looks like we're opting to go for the Octazooka, which I don't want to necessarily say is questionable, because as you can see, it gives us the opportunity to Dragon Breath down if they do not shield. So potentially, that's a smart play. Now, We've built up enough energy to give the outrage pressure against the opposing Kingdra. We don't see a shield there either. Now this could be very interesting how this plays out. This is nuts. You have a double shielded pincer versus a Lapras and a Dragonair with one shield on their part. I mean, the close combat, does it actually one-hit KO in this situation? Oh, so close. The pincer still has a shield. I mean, we still have a shield too. Yeah, that's GG's. This is a clean 2-0. Coma 90X GG's. Those were good games. Let's get some round 7 hype. Let's clear these W's off these counters, and let's keep moving on. This team will blow your mind. It blew my mind, okay? But to introduce the opponent for round 7 here, Gaston is going to be facing off against Nevo and L. I'll just say Nevo, but Nevo's team though, look at this. What? No Lapras, no Celio, not even a Relicanth, no Charizard, no Venusaur, no Dragonair. This is a pretty saucy team. I mean, you even brought the Gastrodon West C instead of a Whiscash. Wow. Okay. Valorash would appreciate this team though, because they have the Fire and the Razor Leafer combo. As you've seen previously, if you have not, I'll link the video up right over there. Go ahead and check it out. But it was a pretty common lineup that he was faced up against, and I was faced up against, and I even used at the Mega Tournament in California, hosted by Pogo King and Trainer Tips Nick. And it was actually facilitated and put together by the Sir Maximus, but that tournament was huge. But this lineup was very common, okay? You have a Fire user, whether that's going to be Blaziken, Charizard, Ninetales. For the most part, it's Blaziken and Charizard, but then you have a Razor Leafer, which relevantly is Victory Bell. For the team, we have Ninetales, we have Kingdra, Victory Bell, Blaziken, Gastrodon, West C, and then Glalie. Very interesting picks, a very interesting team indeed. Let's pull this up with game 1, round 7 here for Gaston versus Nevo NL with this saucy team. Let's go. I'm really eager to see how this goes. This is very late tournament. We might see some huge plays. Counter from the Blaziken, I assume, yes, is going to be able to deal with Relicanth, respectively. Relicanth still is going to do massive damage with the super effective Water Gun. Does not need to shield Blaze Kick. Might need to shield Blast Burn if it wants to do more damage with the Water Gun. But then the Razor Leafer, you see that swap, it comes in, the Razor Leafer does its job. It's not going to be able to do much of anything against the Dragonair, but if it does land a Sludge Bomb, that could still be a huge threat, right? It opted to just go for the Leaf Blade there, which I guess it was worth the investment at the time, but now Gaston's a little tricky too. Gaston has a little sauce here. We have the Dragonair that actually has Wrap, so it does not have Aqua Tail Dragon Pulse. We have the Wrap Pressure that we can put on to deal neutral damage at least against the Kingdra. Going to be much better than going for an Aqua Tail against the Kingdra. Now, Meganium's going to be pretty comfortable in this matchup. Octazooka, not a huge deal. That's not what Meganium's for. We go for this Earthquake as quick as possible. That makes sense. It's going to deal super effective to Blaziken. That's going to be a hard GG's. Blaziken is Gonzo. And then this is GG's as well. They have no shields left. Shields down, Frenzy Plant to the face. Feels bad, man. Let's go to game 2. Game 1 victory, cha-ching. Game 2, here we come. This should be very interesting. I mean, we saw, as we were briefly discussing, that core play of the Fire user, which in this case is Blaziken combined with the Victory Bell. Let's see if they switch things up for game 2. It looks like they do technically. So they lead with the Kingdra here against the Dragonair, which if you play it right, should be able to just straight Dragon Breath away. This might be very IV dependent as well too. Oh, that's so close. But you know that Kingdra, did it have a charge move good to go? If it did, that feels bad because Gaston's Kingdra came in and it just said no. It's going to go for the Octazooka here against the Victory Bell. I think that's the smart thing to do, at least to hopefully lower the attack. But, you know, Victory Bell is going to be a powerhouse with those Razor Leafs. Even if it's just neutral, the Razor Leaf will hit hard in that matchup. Now the Lapras here is going to be able to, for the most part, it's going to be able to comfortably deal with the Ninetales, even if it, you know, gets off an overheat. I don't think you necessarily need to shield. It's not going to OHKO. It looks like it opts to go for the neutral Psyshock, so that's more comfortable for Lapras. We're just going to go for another Surf and Turf, and that is donezo. The Victory Bell gets Ice Sharded down. GG's, round 7. Getting into round 8 now of this massive Nidos Argentina tournament. This is so hype. This is super hype. But this round specifically was noted by Gaston to be, I guess, the most notable, the most entertaining, and also, according to him, the most triggering. This is going to be a very good round, but round 8 is going to be very different because we are facing the one, the only Debu Cuervo. He said these battles were intense. I'm really hoping they are, but let's see. So for their team, for Debu Cuervo's team, we see Ninetales, Kingdra, Dragonair, so they have double dragon. They brought the Drapion though. They also have Meganium and Decilio, but no Lapras, interestingly enough. Without talking about it too much though, let's go ahead and get into game 1 here for round 8. This is going to be nuts. Debu Cuervo versus Gaston here for round 8 in this 9-round massive Nidos Argentina tournament. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Debu opens up with the Dragonair. We open up with the Pinsir here. We opt to go for the X-Scissor, which I think is kind of interesting that you did not go for the close combat pressure. I guess considering the Dragon Breath damage is going to hit so quick, you don't necessarily want to have that lowered defense this early on in the game, especially for game 1 and round 8. We did go for the close combat the second time, and we already have 2 shields actually at this point. So in terms of Gaston's opening strategy against that team of 6, I think that was very well played. We shielded a Dragon Pulse successfully. That was smart as well too. Now we're matched up against the Celio. Meganium being tankier is not going to be as worried of an Aurora Beam as Venusaur would be. Obviously, as you saw, it not necessarily comfortably tanked it, but it did tank it, right? Meganium still has a decent amount of HP left. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be able to reach another Frenzy Plant, but that still is going to be a more considerable gain of advantage rather than loss of advantage versus something like a Kingdra. And we have the Outrage good to go. We built up the energy quick. Oh, what? That was dirty. I feel dirty just watching that. I have to go wash my hands. All right, round 8, game 2 here. I'm a little traumatized after seeing how game 1 ended. I was definitely voting for Gaston there in game 1, but Debu had the plays. We're going straight Frenzy Plant against the opposing Meganium in this Meganium versus Meganium mirror match open here for game 2 in round 8. There's apparently is shiny. Gaston keeps getting matched up against shiny mirrors here. But just go straight Frenzy Plant. You want to deal the even if it's resisted, Frenzy Plant's just the more efficient and energy efficient way. It's the more damage efficient thing to do, which might be counterintuitive. You might think it would be better to go for Earthquake, but that's not the case. We counter swap from this Dragonair, I guess, into this Dragonair we counter swap with a Lapras, which is going to be able to put on a lot of pressure. We grabbed his shield there with the Surf too, which that gives us a step ahead from where we were before. The Dragon Pulse does land, which that hurt. I don't know if we necessarily wanted to take that. We might have wanted to use that shield there at that point. Even if it was, you know, a Wrap or an Aqua Tail, with how healthy the Lapras was, it would have been worth the investment. So the Kingdra comes in and Dragon Breath down, builds up a little bit of energy. We counter swap with the Dragonair. Now this Meganium's here. It's a Frenzy Plant. Okay, not a big deal. If it wasn't Earthquake, that would have very much hurt. So I think the shield was worth it. Now we're going for the Aqua Tail, interestingly enough, against the Kingdra, but we successfully grabbed the shield. And is this Octazooka? Don't get debuff. Oh, the debuff. No, what? Dude. Okay, we still took the W. Meganium, GG's. GG's for game 2. Game 3. I honestly might have a hard time trying to cast over this because I'm so delved into these battles myself right now that I'm going nuts over these. These battles have played some serious mind games on me. I mean, you got the debuffs that do come into play. You know, it's obviously swinging matchups like that is going to happen. Okay, here we go. I'll try and cast. We have the Pinsir versus the Dragonair here. We should see what he did previously by going for the X-Scissor. Okay, we do use a shield. So we might be going for the... Ooh, we go straight for the close combat. Maybe this is what he was talking about. It can go double close combat. Can it? It can indeed. Look at that. So we have the double close combat pressure against the opposing Dragonair. 1 shots because the second one goes through successfully. And Gaston has successfully retained the switch, I guess, or the lead advantage. He sees the Meganium first. He's opting to go for the Meganium Mirror. I should have actually asked him if he had any IV-dependent matchups, because this might be one to consider. You know, I don't know if there's necessarily an attack HP or defense breakpoint to consider in a Meganium versus Meganium Mirror. I mean, comprehensively, I think you're still going to want to go straight Frenzy Plant nonetheless. So we're just getting off the Frenzy Plants in the Mirror. Honestly, this is not very entertaining, but it could very well sway the rest of the entire match depending on how this mirror goes. Okay, so no shield. The Frenzy goes through successfully. The Kingdra comes out, but we do have the Lapras with the Skull Bash threat, and we have a shield, but they also do have a shield. The Octazooka. Oh, no. No, shielded Octazooka with the debuff. No. No. What? F's in the chat right now. There better be tons of F's in the comment section over that. Oh my gosh, dude, what? Round 8. Game 1 lost by a very small amount. It was a cheeky loss. Game 2 won. It was a clean win. Game 3. That was probably the most tilty late tournament Game 3 I have ever seen. I feel this pain right now. Round 8 was pretty traumatizing. As far as a takeaway, I guess the takeaway is if they get the debuff or if they get the boost. That's an RNG play. There's really not much way around it at all if it happens, but it was GG's anyway, because I guess that was, you know, part of Debu Cuervo's strategy, and it worked very well. But let's go into round 9 here. Tuli 340. And Tuli 340 has triple poison? I didn't know that was a thing, but we have Whiscash, Kingdra, Venomoth, Venusaur, Skuntank, and then the Lapras. But let's get it. Round 9, game 1 here. Tuli versus Gaston. Okay, we open up with the Pinsir. He's opening with the Pinsir strat again. I don't know how the matchup plays differently against a Lapras. I think, considering how squishy Pinsir still is, no, I guess you would just go double close combat, right? You're not as scared of the Ice Shard damage as you're going to be as scared of the Dragon Breath damage in terms of, you know, a fast move, obviously. But the close combat lands. It's kind of unfortunate that did not OHKO. The Lapras hangs on by 1 HP. Literally the skin of the Lapras's teeth that held on. Now they bring out the Venu, which is not going to be ideal, obviously, against this Lapras. However, we do kind of have a little bit of an energy lead or an energy advantage. We do invest the shield against the Frenzy Plant. As always, you don't want to take it. Reserve your Lapras. But they, I guess it is a counter swap, right? They have the shield advantage. Gaston is at 0 shields at this point, and the Skuntank has that 1 shield that we just saw be used against the Wrap, which was a good shield for the most part. Now, the Poison Jab, the Crunch lands. The Poison Jab hits kind of hard still against the Dragonair. Dragonair is not a tank by any means. It depends on its type of resistances. That's what its functioning role is. And the Lapras is going to come in and do work against the Skuntank. However, the Venu's still there. It's still kind of healthy. The Surf actually might KO. This might be GG's game 1 and a victory for Gaston. It is GG's game 1. Let's do game 2. Right now, game 2 for round 9, the final round for this performance here. Tuli versus Gaston. They open up with the Skuntank versus the Meganium. Now, even though the Skuntank can deal super effective with the Poison Jab, Meganium's not going to be as threatened by it just because of its stat spread and its nature as a Pokemon. It's going to be tankier. It can deal with it more, I guess. It can tolerate the poison jabs more than other grass types can. We come in with the Dragonair. We do not shield. Okay, the Crunch lands. They could swap and snipe. They do swap and snipe with the Dragon Breath from a Kingdra, but you still have this Meganium to come back into. So that was kind of a way that Gaston has stayed a step ahead. He's manipulated the rock, paper, scissors format based on Tuli's team composition, right? He sees the poison support in his plays and he's playing around that. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what's happening right now, but they do still have 2 shields here, a whole 2 shields with a Venusaur. That's not very good. That's going to be pretty hard to deal with, especially considering the team composition that Gaston has, right? You have the Lapras here left it's going to have to use this shield, and I guarantee you that Venusaur is going to KO. It still has a shield left over. This is GG's for game 2. This is definitely going to game 3. It's pretty unfortunate, honestly. You feel like the Lapras should win this matchup, but it's not going to. There's the shield. GG's. Let's go to game 3. This is the final game now for the final round with Thule340 versus Gaston. How is this going to play out? I think Gaston, for the most part, is playing around Thule's strategy, but Thule's strategy is very unique. I really haven't seen this as being very common with this team composition, right? You don't have the double dragon, you have triple poison. It's pretty interesting. So they open up with the Kingdra, we open up with the Dragon Air. That Kingdra is obviously, with how that Dragon Breath is pacing, it's going to Dragon Breath down before you're going to be able to Dragon Breath it down. Yep, there it is. So that Kingdra probably has a great PvP IV spread, and it shielded the wrap. So Gaston, you know, technically has a shield advantage at this point, but that's not too prevalent because it's going to have to invest that shield against that outrage threat for Lapras to retain its health, right? Now they come in with the Skunk Tank. They're having that neutral play. As we've seen previously, what was it, game 1 or game 2, the Crunch landing against the Lapras is still going to do a great amount of damage. As you can see, it does a very healthy and good amount of damage. Skunk Tank can be pretty clutch in a lot of situations. So the Surf lands on the Skunk Tank, okay? Now do we... Oh, that was close. I feel like that might have been a turning point if we were able or not able to access that Surf. That might have been what made the net. Now that is what made the difference for this battle here. Is this a Frenzy? It is indeed a Frenzy plant. We're going for the Octazooka, but the Venusaur still has a shield, and unfortunately I believe it's going to be able to Vine Whip down. Well, it can get a charge move. No, yeah, we would have Dragon Breath down, so it has to use the Frenzy plant. But that, I mean, that's GG's. That's the second L, so that was the 7 and 2, the whole performance for Gaston. But even then, the loss he took in the last round. Let's not talk about round 8 again after this, okay? I don't want to talk about round 8 for Gaston in this Nidos Argentina Cup ever again. I'm salty about it. But in round 8, I feel like Gaston only lost because of the debuff that he received in that matchup. And also, as we just saw here in round 9, the only reason Gaston lost this one is because, I mean, unfortunately, he was not able to access that Surf against the Venusaur, even though it showed as available. I think the Venusaur with the Vine Whip and how fast, with the pacing on Vine Whip, since it's a shorter turn move as compared to a move like, you know, Confusion or Charm, it's able to actually register that damage before you can actually register and access your charge move. Even though it shows up as available, the Vine Whip is going to get rid of you before you can use it. Nonetheless, Gaston had an amazing run for this tournament. Very, very amazing. As we kept up with the strategies, he knows specific niche matchups that most people might not know. I mean, specifically with the Relicanth being able to farm down a Celio with just Water Gun if you land an Ancient Power, then utilizing Meganium as a pick because it's going to do better against Lapras, Celio, Dragonair, Kingdra, etc. Those are all very core meta picks, so he has that defense. Then he also has the surprise factor play with the pincer. So his strategy and his composition is very unpredictable, but also very defensive and offensive at the same time. This is why in that previous video, it was centered around him having crazy successful team picks, right? I feel like for the most part, this performance echoes that previous performance. I believe Gaston is still crowned the king of team composition, at least what I've seen. Now, arguably, I've seen some very, very saucy picks, but they felt a little more risky. I feel like Gaston has more wiggle room, he has more availability, and he also still has more defense with his team composition. You know, he has 2 tanks between the Meganium and the Lapras. He has the double dragon strategy option between the Kingdra and the Dragonair. Then he has the Relicanth, and its functioning role is going to be so important in a lot of matchups, especially against double ice team compositions. And the pincer, it's just, I mean, it's new, it's fresh, it's fun, but also we saw the double close combat plays. I'm a huge fan now of Gaston in this tournament and this coverage. Very, very GG's. Very, very GG's so much. It does, of course, deserve a bongo roll, my guy. And remember to leave a like and to comment. It does help the video a lot as well, and to show your support for Pokemon Go PvP. But also, from a competitive perspective, if you are interested at all in supporting top players such as Gaston here, to having the opportunity to continue to attend massive tournaments like this, or even regionals, continentals, and worlds, you know, huge events like that. If you really are interested and you would like to be able to support them in their ventures for Pokemon Go PvP, you can do so through the Go Stadium Patreon. I'm sure there is going to be a link for it in the description below. But also remember, there are many other perks you would get from the Go Stadium Patreon, aside, you know, from just being able to support Pokemon Go PvP growing on its way to becoming an esport. I mean, that is massive in itself, but also you can get the chance, you know, to be coached by them. So at the same time, you can become a better battler yourself. Nidos Argentina, shout out to Nidos Argentina for real. This is the sauce. This is what needs to happen. This needs to continue happening. Huge tournaments like this. Congratulations as well to Dibu Cuervo. He actually was victorious for the entire tournament. He took first place, and I think he did very well. Even though I was a little salty about round 8, I think, you know, a lot of us might be, he still was victorious, so his strategy worked. Congratulations, well deserved. But GG's to Gaston. What an amazing performance. GG's to the battles and GG's to the video as well, because it's over. As always, subscribe if you feel the Go Stadium vibe, and power up the notification bell for all the Go Stadium PvP content. That is it for this video. We'll see you in the next video for some fusion content. Battlers, take it one battle at a time and have a good freaking day.